for the hardest-hitting show in talk radio. The true progressive voice since 2012. This is Southpaws.
As part of the orchestrated plan, we allege that 16 Michigan residents met covertly in the basement of Michigan GOP headquarters and knowingly and of their own volition signed their names to multiple certificates stating that they were the duly elected and qualified electors for President and Vice President of the United States of America for the state of Michigan. That was a lie. They weren't the duly elected and qualified electors, and each of the defendants knew it. They carried out these actions with the hope and belief that the electoral votes of Michigan's 2020 election would be awarded to the candidate of their choosing instead of the candidate that Michigan voters actually chose. After signing these fraudulent electoral documents, some of the false electors attempted to enter the state capitol and deliver their fabricated electoral votes to the Senate floor, but were turned away. The false electoral documents were then conveyed to the United States Senate and the National Archives with the intent that Vice President Pence would overturn the results of the election using the false electoral slate. This plan, to reject the will of the voters and undermine democracy, was fraudulent and legally baseless. The false electors' actions undermined the public's faith in the integrity of our elections and not only violated the spirit of the laws enshrining and defending our democracy, but, we believe, also plainly violated the laws by which we administer our elections in Michigan and peaceably transfer power in America.
And that is the voice of Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel announcing charges against 16 fake electors involved in the 2020 presidential election. Boy, we've got a big news day today. Welcome to Southpaws on the Pacifica Radio Network. We are the leaders of the revolution. I'm Darren Gibson, your host today. You would think that would be our top story, but it's not. Donald Trump has outed himself again, this time telling everybody that he has been sent a target letter by the Justice Department into the efforts to overturn the 2020 election. We'll talk about that. Really scary stuff. Trump has big plans if he gets reelected. We will tell you about what type of fascism he's looking to delve into if he gets back in office. We'll have more about the 16 fake electors. We'll actually identify them. One of them from West Michigan and is a current sitting mayor. We have to tell you the latest update from Mason, Michigan. We have a Hammer Time segment, and we have As Ottawa County Turns, and much more if we can get to it. You know how to follow us on social media. You know where to listen, so let's delve right into our first topic today. This is Eric Tucker writing for the Associated Press. This is dated July 19th out of Washington. A target letter sent to Donald Trump suggests that a sprawling Justice Department investigation into efforts to overturn the 2020 election is zeroing in on him after more than a year of interviews with top aides to Trump and state officials from across the country. Federal prosecutors have cast a wide net, asking witnesses in recent months about a chaotic White House meeting that included discussion of seizing voting machines and about lawyers' involvement in plans to block the transfer of power. That's according to people familiar with the probe. They've discussed with witnesses schemes by Trump associates to enlist slates of Republican fake electors in battleground states won by Democrat Joe Biden and interviewed state election officials who faced a pressure campaign over the election results in the days before the January 6th riot at the U.S. Capitol. Let me add, traitorous riot. Those people are traitors. It is unclear how much longer special counsel Jack Smith's investigation will last, but its gravity was evident Tuesday when Donald Trump disclosed that he had received a letter from the Justice Department advising him that he was a target of the probe. Such letters often precede criminal charges. Trump received one ahead of his indictment last month on charges that he illegally hoarded classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago property in Florida. Though it's not known when charges might come, the scope of the inquiry stands in stark contrast to Smith's much narrower classified documents investigation. The vast range of witnesses is a reminder of the tumultuous 2 months between Trump's election loss and the insurrection at the Capitol, when some lawyers and advisors aided his futile efforts to remain president, while many others implored him to move on or were relentlessly badgered to help alter results. A spokesperson for special counsel Jack Smith declined to comment about the target letter or the interviews that prosecutors have conducted. Even before Smith inherited the election interference probe last November, Justice Department investigators had already interviewed multiple Trump administration officials, including the chief of staff to former Vice President Mike Pence and former top lawyers at the White House, scrutinized post-election fundraising, and seized as potential evidence the cell phones of numerous lawyers and officials. Since then, Smith's team has questioned senior administration officials, including Pence himself, before a grand jury in Washington, and has conducted voluntary interviews with a wide array of witnesses inside and outside the federal government. Those include election officials in states where Trump associates waged fruitless challenges to get results overturned in the Republican incumbent's favor. Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, who was personally lobbied by Trump to, quote, find 11,780 votes, end of quote, to overtake Biden, has been interviewed by Smith's team, as has Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson and New Mexico Secretary of State Maggie Toulouse Oliver. That is according to their representatives. Wisconsin's top elections administrator and election leaders in Milwaukee and Madison have spoken with federal investigators. And former Arizona Republican Governor Doug Ducey, who silenced a call from the Trump White House as he was publicly certifying Biden's narrow victory in the state, has been contacted by Smith's team. That's according to a spokesperson who said that to the Associated Press on Tuesday. One person familiar with Smith's investigation said prosecutors in recent months have expressed interest in the ordeal of Ruby Freeman, a Georgia election worker who, along with her daughter, recounted to the House of Republicans' January 6th committee on how their lives became upended when Trump and allies latched onto surveillance footage to level since debunked allegations of voter fraud. Smith's team has subpoenaed Raffensperger's office for any, quote, security video or security footage or any other video of any kind, end of quote, from State Farm Arena in Atlanta on November 3rd, 2020. That is according to a copy of the document obtained by the Associated Press. That's the video Rudy Giuliani and other Trump allies have claimed showed Fulton County election workers, including Freeman, pulling, quote, suitcases of ballots, end of quote, from under a table. Georgia officials have repeatedly called those claims false. Here's what I call them. Yep, I'm a little more blunt. A consistent area of interest for investigators has been the role played by Trump-allied lawyers in helping him cling to power. That is according to people familiar with the investigation who, like others interviewed for the story, spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss an ongoing criminal probe. John Eastman, a conservative law professor, advanced a dubious legal theory that said Pence could halt the certification of state electoral votes to block Biden's win. Lawyer Sidney Powell promoted baseless claims of voter fraud and pushed an idea vigorously opposed by Trump's lawyers at the White House that Trump had the authority under an earlier executive order to seize state voting machines. Charles Burnham, a lawyer for Eastman, said Tuesday that his client had not received a target letter. Quote, we don't expect one since raising concerns about illegality in the conduct of an election is not now and has never been sanctionable, end of quote. A lawyer for Powell declined to comment. Multiple witnesses have been asked about a heated December 18, 2020 meeting at the White House in which outside advisors, including Powell, raised the voting machines idea, people familiar with the matter said. The meeting, which devolved into a shouting match, featured prominently in the January 6th investigation by the House, with former White House official Cassidy Hutchinson memorably describing it as, quote, unhinged, end of quote. Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani participated in the meeting and spearheaded legal challenges to the election results. He was asked about that meeting during a voluntary interview with Smith's team and also detailed to prosecutors Powell's involvement in failed efforts to overturn the election. That is according to a person familiar with his account. Giuliani has not received a target letter. The person said that Giuliani's interview was part of what's known as a proffer agreement, in which a person speaks voluntarily with investigators while prosecutors agree not to use those statements in any criminal case they might bring. Prosecutors have worked to negotiate similar arrangements with other witnesses. As prosecutors dig into efforts by Trump allies to thwart Biden's victory, they've focused on the creation of slates of fake electors from key states captured by Biden who were enlisted by Trump and his allies to sign false certificates stating that Trump had actually won. Smith's team is also focused on Trump's effort to punish officials from his administration who contradicted his false election fraud claims. Chris Krebs, who was fired by Trump as director of the Department of Homeland Security's cybersecurity agency after vouching for the integrity of the 2020 vote, was interviewed by prosecutors a couple of months ago about the perceived retaliation. Again, that is according to a person familiar with questioning. And we will get to the false slate of electors coming up in just a little bit. But since we're talking about Trump, let's get to our next story. This is Jonathan Swan, Charlie Savage, and Maggie Haberman writing for the New York Times. This is published July 17th. What I am about to read to you should scare the living hell out of every single American in this country. Donald J. Trump and his allies are planning a sweeping expansion of presidential power over the machinery of government if voters return him to the White House in 2025, reshaping the structure of the executive branch to concentrate far greater authority directly in his hands. Their plans to centralize more power in the Oval Office stretch far beyond Trump's recent remarks that he would order a criminal investigation into President Biden, signaling his intent to end the post-Watergate norm of Justice Department independence from White House political control. Trump and his associates have a broader goal: to alter the balance of power by increasing the president's authority over every part of the federal government that now operates by either law or tradition, with any measure of independence from political interference by the White House. That is according to a review of his campaign policy proposals and interviews with people close to him. Trump intends to bring independent agencies like the Federal Communications Commission, which makes and enforces rules for television and internet companies, and the Federal Trade Commission, which enforces various antitrust and other consumer protection rules against businesses, under direct presidential control. He wants to revive the practice of impounding funds, refusing to spend money Congress has appropriated for programs the president doesn't like, a tactic that lawmakers banned under President Richard Nixon. He intends to strip employment protections from tens of thousands of career civil servants, making it easier to replace them if they are deemed obstacles to his agenda. And he plans to scour the intelligence agencies, the State Department, and the defense bureaucracies to remove officials he has vilified as, quote, the sick political class that hates our country, end of quote. John McEntee, a former White House personnel chief who began Trump's systematic attempt to sweep out officials deemed to be disloyal in 2020 and who is now involved in mapping out the new approach, said, quote, the president's plan should be to fundamentally reorient the federal government in a way that hasn't been done since FDR's New Deal. Our current executive branch was conceived of by liberals for the purpose of promulgating liberal policies. Oh, really? There is no way to make the existing structure function in a conservative manner. It's not enough to get the personnel right. What's necessary is a complete system overhaul. End of quote. Yeah, they're talking about installing Trump as a dictator, fascist, Mussolini, Hitler. Does that ring any bells with you folks? Trump and his advisors are making no secret of their intentions, proclaiming them in rallies and on his campaign website, describing them in white papers and openly discussing them. Russell T. Vogt, who ran the Office of Management and Budget in the Trump White House and now runs the Center for Renewing America, a policy organization, said, quote, "What we're trying to do is identify the pockets of independence and seize them." End of quote. Oh boy, like I said, this should scare the hell out of you if you're listening to this. Vogt said that the strategy in talking openly about such paradigm-shifting ideas before the election is to plant a flag, both to shift the debate and to later be able to claim a mandate. He said he was delighted to see few of Trump's Republican primary rivals defend the norm of Justice Department independence after Trump openly attacked it. Yeah, because they're a bunch of evil, violent, conservative traitors too. Get it through your head. Evil, violent, conservative traitors. Stephen Chung, a spokesman for Trump's campaign, said in a statement that Trump has, quote, "laid out a bold and transparent agenda for his second term, something no other candidate has done. Voters will know exactly how Trump will supercharge the economy, bring down inflation, secure the border, protect communities, and eradicate the deep state that works against Americans once and for all." End of quote. Yeah. There you go, folks. The two driving forces of this effort to reshape the executive branch are Trump's own campaign policy shop and a well-funded network of conservative groups, many of which are populated by former senior Trump administration officials who would most likely play key roles in any second term. Vogt and McEntee are involved in Project 2025, a $22 million presidential transition operation that is preparing policies, personnel lists, and transition plans to recommend to any Republican who may win the 2024 election. The transition project, the scale of which is unprecedented in conservative politics, is led by the Heritage Foundation, a think tank that has shaped the personnel and policies of Republican administrations since the Reagan presidency. Yeah, the Heritage Foundation ought to be classified as a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center, if you want my opinion on that. That work at Heritage dovetails with plans on the Trump campaign website to expand presidential power that were drafted primarily by two of Trump's advisors, Vincent Haley and Ross Worthington, with input from other advisors, including Stephen Miller, the architect of Trump's hardline immigration agenda. Yeah, I'm just going to stop there, because that should be enough to scare the living hell out of everybody. I'm telling you what, folks, you better get on board with the fact that if Trump gets the Republican nomination and he gets elected, this country is f***ed. Period. End of story. Democracy will go away forever. I'm not trying to hype it up. I'm telling the truth. It will go away forever. You better think about that. You better think about it, especially some of you people that are thinking about voting for an anti-vaxxer like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Or for that matter, somebody who is apparently now embracing some conservative ideology named Cornel West. Sorry, I'm just calling it like it is. If you want to know what I'm talking about, go back into our archives. I've discussed it before. It was Cornel West's own words basically approving of a conservative plan to put Christianity back in the schools. That's just how I see it. It's just exactly how I see it. All right, let's get on to some more of the 2020 election stuff. Let's get back to the slate of fake electors. This story is Clara Hendrickson writing for the Detroit Free Press. This is dated July 19th. So we know that Dana Nessel has announced criminal charges against 16 Republicans. And the allegation is that they met inside the basement of the Michigan Republican Party headquarters to sign certificates falsely claiming that they were legitimate presidential electors. Yeah, in secret, they went to the basement. So here are the 16 individuals. 55-year-old Michonne Maddock of Milford. She is the former Republican Party co-chair for Michigan. She's married to State Representative Matt Maddock, Republican of Milford. They own a bail bonds business. Hey, at least she can get out of jail. She can bail her own ass out. Before she was chosen to lead Michigan's Republican Party, she served as its 11th district chair and helped organize buses from Michigan to Washington, D.C., heading Trump's call to supporters to come to the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021 to fight the certification of the election. So, yeah, there you go, folks. She's one of the traitors. She's one of them that organized the traitorous actions. My opinion. Maddock called herself a Trump original in a 2020 interview with the Detroit Free Press, noting she supported Trump since his 2015 candidacy. She was a founding board member of the Michigan Conservative Coalition, which helped organize protests at the Michigan State Capitol against Governor Gretchen Whitmer's efforts to stop the spread of COVID-19. So she's also another anti-vaxxer, doesn't believe in science. The second one, 70-year-old Kathy Burden of Snover, Michigan. In 2015, the State Committee of the Michigan Republican Party elected her as National Committee Woman. Before holding that role, she served as a state committee member, was part of the Michigan delegation to the Republican National Convention 3 times. So she's dyed-in-the-wool Kool-Aid drinker. There you go, folks. The fake certificate of electors lists Burden as chairperson, Electoral College of Michigan. Oh, my God. What a line of crap. The next one. 64-year-old Myra Rodriguez of Grosse Pointe Farms. She is a Michigan lawyer. Earlier this year, the Michigan Attorney Grievance Commission filed a complaint against her with the Michigan Attorney Discipline Board recommending disciplinary action against her. The complaint asserts that Rodriguez knew when she signed the fake certificate of electors that she was not a qualified presidential elector and that she did not convene in the Michigan Capitol to certify the election as required by Michigan law. She is the only licensed Michigan lawyer in the group of Trump electors. That is according to a search of attorneys on the State Bar of Michigan's website. She was subpoenaed by the U.S. House Committee probing the January 6, 2021 traitorous riot on the Capitol. During her deposition, she refused to say whether it was her signature on the documents to award Michigan's Electoral College votes to Trump sent to Congress and the National Archives. She also declined to acknowledge the state election law says that Michigan's electors of president and vice president are those from the political party that received the most votes in the presidential election. The fake certificate of electors lists Rodriguez as secretary. The next one, 71-year-old Stanley Grott. He is the Shelby Township clerk in Macomb County. He previously served as a Sterling Heights City Council member and Macomb County Commissioner. He acknowledged he signed the certificate promising Michigan's Electoral College votes to Trump, according to a Detroit Free Press report. He sued fellow Republicans claiming defamation on social media. Oh, good Lord. These folks just love litigation. The next one, 56-year-old Timothy King of Ypsilanti, was the lead plaintiff in a legal effort led by Trump ally Sidney Powell to overturn the 2020 election in Michigan. He is a retired tool and die UAW auto worker. He ran and lost his 2020 bid to serve on the Washtenaw County Commission. So not only is he an evil, violent conservative traitor, he's also a scab. He stabbed his fellow brothers and sisters in the United Auto Workers Union in the back. That's what scabs do. He said in 2020 the voters faced a critical choice that year. He told the Detroit Free Press then, quote, "I think this election is the most important one we've had since the 1864 election of President Lincoln because we had a divided nation and right now we're divided." End of quote. Yeah, we're divided because of you conservative sons of bitches like Rush Limbaugh. Oh, I almost said the other phrase that I call him. Yeah, old Rushbo ditto head. Starting in with calling women feminazis and using the word libtard and all that good stuff. Yeah, like I said, I hope Rush is burning in hell right next to Pat Robertson, if there is such a thing as hell, which I don't believe in because I'm an atheist. Here's the next one. 82-year-old John Haggard of Charlevoix is the owner of Haggard's Plumbing and Heating. He's been active in politics for decades. In 1964, Haggard handed out brochures for Barry Goldwater. So he's a Goldwater girl, just like Hillary Clinton. There you go. And in 2016, he served as a Republican elector. He was one of the plaintiffs who brought a lawsuit in the wake of the 2020 election to try to name Trump the winner. The next one, 69-year-old Marion Sheridan of West Bloomfield, currently serves as the Michigan Republican Party's grassroots vice chair. She was also a plaintiff in the federal election lawsuit to try to award Michigan's electoral college votes to Trump. The effort was rejected as an attempt to sow doubt in the election based on conspiracies and resulted in sanctions against the attorneys who defended it. She has led the Lakes Area Tea Party and is the co-founder of the Michigan Conservative Coalition. Oh, so she's a tea bagger, too. She told the Detroit Free Press previously that she first became involved with the Republican Party in 2009. So, yeah, that's when she threw her brain away. In 2020, she trained hundreds of poll challengers to observe the election. At the time, she said, quote, "It's really a great thing that we have so many Americans that are so interested in the election process," end of quote. Yeah, they're interested in overturning the elections. The next one, 72-year-old William Hank Choate of Cement City is a dairy farmer. In April of 2017, he was one of 14 farmers from across the country who met with Trump at the White House to discuss agricultural issues. He told the Detroit Free Press previously that he did not become involved in Republican Party politics until 2010. He said, quote, "I was seeing my grandchildren were not going to have anywhere near the opportunities for what they wanted to do as young adults as I did back in the late 60s and early 70s, end of quote. Yeah, because you voted Reagan into office. Reagan got rid of the tariffs, therefore all the jobs went overseas. Bye-bye forever. Choate went on to serve as chair of the Jackson County Republican Party for 4 years and serve as chair of the Michigan GOP's 7th District. Yeah, Jackson County, you can't spit without hitting a violent conservative. Hey, just telling the truth, folks, just telling the truth. The next one, 55-year-old Amy Facinello of Grand Blanc is also new to party politics. She told the Detroit Free Press in 2020 that Trump motivated her to get involved. Well, there you go. She said, quote, "I heard what he said he was going to do, and I started seeing it all get put into action, and I was like totally on board with it," end of quote. In 2018, she became a GOP precinct delegate and joined the executive board of the Genesee County Republican Party. Facinello was elected to serve as a board member of Grand Blanc Community Schools in 2020. Oh boy, so apparently she's another office holder. The next one, 75-year-old Clifford Frost of Warren worked hard to re-elect Trump in 2020. At the time, he hoped Trump would succeed so he could cast one of Michigan's electoral college votes. At the time, he said, quote, "It's a privilege I look forward to," end of quote. Frost ran for office in 2020, vying to represent part of Macomb County in the Michigan House, but he lost his primary. Next one, a previous webpage for the Greater Oakland Republican Club showed that 65-year-old Mary Ann Henry of Brighton was involved with the group. The next one, 73-year-old Michelle Lundgren of Detroit, was served with a subpoena and interviewed by federal agents last year. She told the Detroit Free Press that she met with agents from the FBI, the Department of Justice, and Inspector General for 2 hours last summer. When asked about the fake certificate of electors, Lundgren told the Free Press that she signed a blank piece of paper with lines for each of the signatures. No, really? No, she knew what she was signing. Don't believe her. Lundgren said, quote, "We were wrongly persuaded to come to Lansing and sign a blank piece of paper." End of quote. She could not identify who persuaded her to sign the document. Quote, who and what pulled this shit out of the bag and tried to throw it at the wall? End of quote. Oh, brother. Lundgren ran as a Republican in 2022, seeking to represent part of Detroit in the Michigan House of Representatives. She lost her election to incumbent state representative Abraham Ayash, Democrat of Hamtramck. The next one, 76-year-old James Renner of Lansing is one of the two names that appear on the fake certificate of electors, who was not originally nominated by the state's Republican Party to serve as an elector in the event of a Trump victory. He was selected to replace Gerald Wall, according to an affidavit Nessel's office provided in support of its criminal charges against the Trump electors. Wall, who was nominated to serve as an elector in the event of a Trump victory in Michigan, did not sign the certificate. The next one, 68-year-old Ken Thompson of Orleans, which is not too far from here, is the second individual whose name appears on the fake certificate of electors who was not originally nominated by the state's Republican Party to serve as an elector in the event of a Trump victory. He was selected to replace former Michigan Secretary of State Terry Lynn Land, according to an affidavit Nessel's office provided in support of its criminal charges against the Trump electors. Land, who was nominated to serve as an elector in the event of a Trump victory in Michigan, did not sign the certificate. The next one, 81-year-old Rose Rook of Paw Paw, which is just south of the Grand Rapids area, right around Kalamazoo, has held various local leadership positions within the Republican Party. She used to be a Democrat, but previously told the Detroit Free Press that she left the party because she said the party left her values. She said she became involved with the Republican Party in 2016. Before the 2020 election, she said that she was looking forward to the prospect of casting Michigan's Electoral College votes for Trump. Quote, it's just a great honor, end of quote. When asked about her support for Trump, she said, quote, he's just the law and order president, and I'm very impressed with that, end of quote. Law and order. The guy that hoarded classified documents in his bathroom at Mar-a-Lago, Mr. Law and Order himself. And the last one, 69-year-old Kent Vanderwood, currently the mayor of Wyoming, Michigan, which is a suburb of Grand Rapids. He was elected to lead the city in 2022. He previously served as the Michigan Republican Party's 2nd District Chair. So there you go, folks. I really hope they got Vanderwood right out of the mayor's office in Wyoming. And I tell you what, since we're talking politics, let's get to Mason, Michigan. We have an update. We told you on last week's show that the amendments to the city's ethics ordinance were presented to the city's ethics board. We originally told you that it was an overwhelming refusal to approve them. We did find out later on that the ethics board deadlocked 2-2 on the amendments with one member absent. Therefore, the recommendations were not approved by the ethics board. Regardless of that, the Mason City Council was supposed to vote on a second reading of the amendments and then vote to approve the ordinance or to disapprove of it. Instead, the council voted 5-1 Monday night to table the second reading of the amendments to the city's ethics ordinance. Councilwoman Rita Vogel was the lone no vote, telling fellow councilors that she wanted an end put to this. One councilor was absent. City Planning Board Vice Chair Seth Waxman was very vocal in his opposition to the amendments, saying he won't hold his tongue if the amendments pass. William Now Jr., a member of the city's ethics board, also voiced his opposition to the changes in the ethics board ordinance. There it is, folks. They've kicked the can down the road again. All right, it's time to get to our next segment.
Stop! Hammer time!
Oh, yeah, it's hammer time. It's time to drop the hammer on the douchebag of the week. And we've got 3 winners this week, so let's get right to it. Winner number 1 is U.S. Senator Tommy Tuberville, Republican of Alabama. This is Bernd de Boozman Jr. writing for the BBC News. This is out of Washington, dated July 11th. A U.S. senator has acknowledged that white nationalists are racist, changing course on his previous comments. In a CNN interview, Tommy Tuberville said it was, quote, some people's opinion, end of quote, that white nationalists are racist. That statement was condemned by both sides of the U.S. political spectrum. In several recent media interviews, Tuberville had repeatedly declined to call white nationalists racist. Organizations that track extremist groups in the U.S. largely define white nationalism as an ideology that seeks to create an ethno-state with white identity at its heart. In the interview with CNN, Tuberville said, quote, my opinion of a white nationalist, if someone wants to call them white nationalist, to me is an American, end of quote. Wow. He also said white nationalists, quote, have different beliefs, but if racism is one of those beliefs, I'm totally against it, end of quote. Yeah. No, you're for it. You are a racist, Tommy. Unbelievable. The row began in May when Tuberville told Alabama radio station WBHM that efforts to root out white extremists and white nationalists in the military were politically motivated. Responding to criticism afterwards, Tuberville said, quote, Democrats portray all Trump people as white nationalists. That's what I was saying, end of quote. Well, pretty much. Not all racists are Trump supporters, but all Trump supporters are racist. Just pull that one out of the hat. There you go, folks. Speaking briefly in a Capitol Hill hallway Tuesday, the senator appeared to back away from his earlier remarks, telling reporters that, quote, white nationalists are racist, end of quote. He did not elaborate on the remark or say anything about his previous comments. The change of tune came as Democratic and Republican lawmakers alike condemned Tuberville's comments as inappropriate and called for him to apologize. The Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, a Kentucky Republican, told reporters that white supremacy ideology is, quote, simply unacceptable in the military and our whole country, end of quote. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat of New York, said, quote, the definition of white nationalism is not a matter of opinion, end of quote. He added that white nationalism was, quote, racist down to its rotten core, end of quote. Tuberville, a former college football coach, has also come under intense criticism for holding up the nomination of more than 200 top military appointments to protest against a Pentagon policy that offers travel allowances and time off for military personnel who want an abortion. He has vowed to continue the protest. Yeah, because he's an asshole. That is simple. He's anti-woman. Simple as it gets, as George Carlin would say. So, winner number one, Tommy Tuberville. Winner number two this week, country music singer Jason Aldean. Yes, we have to talk about that guy. This is Morgan Hines and Marcus K. Dowling writing for USA Today. This is dated July 19th. CMT, Country Music Television, is no longer airing Jason Aldean's music video for the song Try That in a Small Town. The video sparked criticism after its release Friday. The TV network confirmed in an email to USA Today that the video has been pulled from rotation. The network stopped showing the music video after Aldean, who survived a mass shooting while he performed in 2017, faced backlash for the song, which many perceived as being in favor of gun violence and lynching. Not long after the video's release, online critics highlighted the song's lyrics as emblematic of songs heightening gun violence and lynching sentiments upon many in his rural, small-town fan base. The lyrics read this way: cuss out a cop, spit in his face, stomp on the flag and light it up. Yeah, you think you're tough? Well, try that in a small town. See how far you make it down the road. Around here, we take care of our own. You cross that line, it won't take long for you to find out. I recommend you don't try that in a small town. Viewers also noted the scenes in the video were shot at the Maury County Courthouse in Columbia, Tennessee, where 18-year-old Henry Choate, a black man, was lynched in 1927. Yes, a mob of over 350 people lynched this 18-year-old. just for being black, basically. The site is also where the infamous Columbia race riot occurred in 1946. Aldean took to Twitter Tuesday to reject the criticism, sharing a lengthy statement on what the song means to him. He wrote in part, quote, "While I can try and respect others to have their own interpretation of a song with music, this one goes too far," end of quote. In a statement associated with the release of the song, Aldean said this, quote, "When you grow up in a small town, it's that unspoken rule of we all have each other's backs and we look out for each other. It feels like somewhere along the way that sense of community and respect has gotten lost. Deep down, we are all ready to get back to that. I hope my new music video helps you all know that you are not alone in feeling that way. Go check it out," end of quote. Some people who saw the video took to social media to highlight what they found alarming. Shannon Watts, founder of gun violence advocacy group Moms Demand Justice, said on Twitter that the song is, quote, "an ode to a sundown town, suggesting people be beaten or shot for expressing free speech. It also insinuates that guns are being confiscated, the penalty for which is apparently death," end of quote. Watts returned to Twitter Wednesday to celebrate CMT's decision. Singer Sheryl Crow also spoke up on Twitter. Addressing Aldean, she wrote, quote, "I'm from a small town. Even people in small towns are sick of violence. There's nothing small town or American about promoting violence. You should know that better than anyone, having survived a mass shooting. This is not American or small town like," end of quote. Tennessee State Representative Justin Jones, who, by the way, was kicked out of the Tennessee House for being involved in a gun protest on the House floor, but then was reinstated by appointment, wrote this, quote, "As Tennessee lawmakers, we have an obligation to condemn Jason Aldean's heinous song calling for racist violence. What a shameful vision of gun extremism and vigilantism. We will continue to call for common sense gun laws to protect all our children and communities," end of quote. I don't care what Jason Aldean has to say, so I'm just going to skip that. Tacklebox, the production company for Aldean's video, said the location that has come under scrutiny is a popular filming location, citing several other projects filmed there. They include the Lifetime original movie Steppin' Into the Holiday with Mario Lopez and Jana Kramer, a music video from Runaway June called We Were Rich, and a Paramount holiday film, A Nashville Country Christmas, with Tanya Tucker, as well as the Hannah Montana film. The company said that Aldean did not pick the location. Aldean's wife, Brittany, took to Instagram to support her other half. She wrote this, quote, "Never apologize for speaking the truth," end of quote. Now, let me add, both are Trump supporters and both are anti-vaxxers. Evil, violent, conservative traitors. So let me tie it up here. The 46-year-old singer from Macon, Georgia, has been no stranger to controversies and tragedies with direct or implied relationships to his new song. On October 1st, 2017, he played on stage at the Route 91 Harvest Festival near the Las Vegas Mandalay Bay Hotel and Casino when gunman Stephen Paddock killed 60 people and wounded 800 in an 11-minute hail of bullets. He has addressed concerns regarding wearing blackface for a 2015 Halloween costume. So there he is. He's racist, my opinion. Moreover, his conservative political beliefs were discussed upon visiting Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago golf course and resort in Florida in 2020 and being embroiled in a dispute regarding the belief that his wife made transphobic remarks and social media posts in 2022, which led to his publicity firm of 17 years, Green Room, to stop working with him. So there you go, folks. So that's winner number 2, Jason Aldean. Winner number 3 this week. I told you about the UAW worker, the retiree that stabbed his fellow brothers and sisters in the back. Let me tell you about somebody else who has stabbed her own race in the back. Winner number 3, Georgia State Representative Misha Maynor. I have this. This is Jessica Washington writing for The Root. This is from July 13th. Atlanta voters will now have a Republican representing them in the state legislature. Now, you might be wondering how a Republican managed to squeak through in one of the bluer districts in the country, and the answer is she was elected. as a Democrat. On Tuesday, State Representative Misha Maynor announced that she was leaving the Democratic Party and joining the Republican Party. The move makes Maynor the first black woman to serve as a Republican in the Georgia General Assembly. Maynor's district, which stretches from Westview to Midtown Atlanta, is deep blue, and her former party was quick to call Maynor out for playing a bait-and-switch with her constituents. The Georgia Democratic Party wrote in a statement, quote, Representative Misha Maynor switched to the GOP as a stinging betrayal of her constituents who elected a Democrat to represent them in the state legislature. House District 56 deserves a representative who will do the job they were elected to do. End of quote. However, Republicans like Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene applauded the move, welcoming her to the party. On Twitter, Maynor explained her decision by calling it a moral decision, adding, quote, I will never apologize for being a black woman with a mind of my own, end of quote. No, what you are is Georgia's version of Roy Schmidt, the former Michigan state representative who switched at the last minute from the Democrat to Republican Party after he attended a fundraiser at the International Association of Firefighters Hall right on Fuller Street, had a spaghetti dinner raising funds for him, funds that he had to return because the next day is when he switched and became a Republican, and then tried to get his nephew's best friend to run against him as a quote-unquote fake Democrat. So there you go. Republicans will lie, cheat, steal. They will do anything to keep power. It's an interesting move for Maynor, who told Axios in April that she would never switch parties despite her disagreements over school vouchers and other Democratic policy platforms. In fact, she told the outlet that she was a lifelong Democrat because they fought for those that have been forgotten. Maynor has clearly switched up her opinion on the two parties quickly. Last Wednesday, she tweeted, quote, Democrats cannot say they care about people in marginalized communities when they want to keep them oppressed and suppressed, end of quote. No, honey, you're thinking of the Republicans. The newly minted Republican isn't up for re-election until 2024, which means her mostly Democratic constituents are stuck with her until then. Well, no, they can recall her out of office. Maynor previously vowed to run again this cycle, but this time around, voters will likely have a whole new set of questions. And there you go, folks. So to all three of our winners, we have this message for you.
Don't be a douchebag!
Yeah, that's right. Some of you just can't help it. You're conservatives. That's why you're all douchebags. Unbelievable. These people just are insane. Absolutely nuts. All right, let's go on to our next segment here. Uh-oh. You know what that music means. And now, Hawker and Ramble present As Ottawa County Turns. Brought to you today by Harmon Toilet Paper. Don't squeeze the Harmon, or we'll send Mr. Jipple to break your hands. And Mr. Jipple's tough, let me tell you. He's tougher than the Pope. The Pope was a boxer. Oh, my gosh. All right, one piece of good news and then one piece of bad news coming out of Ottawa County. This is Mitchell Boatman writing for the Holland Sentinel. This is dated July 12th. Ottawa County Commissioners approved the plan of organization for the Ottawa County Department of Public Health in what was a rare, quiet meeting Tuesday. The plan of organization was the only action item Tuesday, July 11th, and was approved unanimously with little discussion or debate. Under the state's public health code, local health departments are required to have a plan of organization approved by MDHHS as part of accreditation. The document details legal responsibility and authority, staffing, finances, vision, values, planning, and collaboration efforts, service delivery, reporting, and MDHHS approval of the health officer and medical director. The plan approved Tuesday acknowledges that Hambley is serving as health officer, but that it's in dispute whether she's the permanent or interim health officer. A version of the plan was posted Friday afternoon as part of the meeting packet on the Ottawa County website, but was updated with a handful of changes Monday. Several speakers during public comments said they were unhappy with the document being changed the night before the meeting. One speaker ripped a paper with her planned comments in half, saying the document now looked, quote, completely unlike what it looked like when I prepared my comments, end of quote. She added she doesn't, quote, understand how one does business this way in a government agency, end of quote. Commissioner Doug Zylstra asked for a brief recess to review the document before a vote. After the recess, Chair Joe Moss spoke to the changes, calling them minor and saying they'd been approved by Hambly and Corporation Counsel. Hambly was not in attendance Tuesday. Moss said, quote, the health officer had asked for a couple of tweaks to the documents. Working with legal counsel, they made some adjustments in wording on just a few minor points. Nothing to worry about. The health officer asked for a change. It came through legal, and now it comes to the board. End of quote. Commissioners Jacob Bonham and Rebecca Curran thanked counsel for working with Hambly to make sure the document was agreeable for both parties. A couple of residents in attendance were upset at the process. One speaker said he was dismayed and said any necessary changes should have been made during a meeting since the document was already posted. Another said the board was skipping steps. According to the version of the plan currently available on the Ottawa County website, Hambly first sent the document to the board's Health and Human Services Committee for review on May 18th. It was submitted for contract ratification for Moss's signature May 19th. Revisions were received from Corporation Counsel on June 29th and July 5th. This timeline was not included in the version of the plan posted Friday. The final version includes more detailed explanations of the duties and authorities of a local health officer as outlined in state law. It also has more information about the Youth Assessment Survey and how it's used. So there's that. At least they were able to get that through. Now, for those of you that live in Ottawa County, expect to cough up more money. This is Matt Whitghost writing for WXMI Television. This is dated July 18th out of West Olive. Ottawa County is dipping into its reserves to pay for its lawyers. County leaders approved a plan Tuesday to move more than $100,000 to pay the Kallman Legal Group. Finance Director Karen Karazinski said at the Finance and Administration Committee meeting that the Kallman Legal Group is billing the county on average $35,000 a month. Fox 17 has been closely following the county board's financial activity. We asked for 5 minutes with County Commissioner Joe Moss, who would not answer our questions. Moss asked us, quote, did you see the article on Simply American about Sarah Leach and the Holland Sentinel and her 87 articles? End of quote. We responded with our own question, quote, don't you own that website? End of quote. Moss continued to plug his website, which shares articles about the county board and its decisions. During Tuesday's meeting, Moss said, quote, it's my understanding that the needs of the county have changed since last year. This year is a little different. End of quote. Yeah. It's different because you folks have mismanaged the county. Duh. A majority of the board approved moving the $110,000 from the county's general fund to pay for the added corporate counsel costs. Moss explained, quote, I understand maybe 3 or 4 years ago, in the first 5 months of the year, there were about 35 FOIA requests, and that need has increased. End of quote. According to itemized receipts from January to March, Kallman Legal Group spent more than 21 hours on FOIA requests. Commissioner Doug Zylstra said, quote, hopefully we can revisit that the Rules Committee, that we can have more public information available on the front end so we see less FOIA requests on the back end. End of quote. There you go, Doug. Good job. The majority of the board members are part of a group called Ottawa Impact. In January, they awarded the Kallman Legal Group a no-bid contract. The financial director explained that because of the board's decision, the county budgeted $210,000, an amount meant to last from January to September. Kallman Legal Group attorney Jack Jordan told WXMI, quote, what we charge is a very reasonable rate for the services that we render. End of quote. Oh, really? The rate is $225 an hour. It goes up to $295 when the group deals with lawsuits. Jordan added, quote, what we have done up to this point, we have done good work, excellent work, end of quote. Yeah. Bullshit. According to the bill, there was a $31,000 tab at no charge to the county in March. Jordan explained, quote, "We have a number of attorneys that may be working on the same thing. We do not bill for every attorney that is working on that particular item," end of quote. Ottawa County is entering the budget season. Departments will present potential costs and services to the county for final approval. Jordan said, quote, "We're looking at in our contract there's going to be an increase. Not a large increase, but there will be an increase in the next budget cycle," end of quote. With the Finance Committee's recommendation, this $110,000 transfer now heads to the board for final approval. Through a Freedom of Information Act request, Fox 17 learned the Kallman Legal Group separately bills the Ottawa County Insurance Authority to pay for its litigation cost. The OCIA fund handles risk management for the county. Lawsuits. The OCIA paid the Kallman Legal Group $88,000 from February to May. The biggest cost is health advisor Adeline Hambley's case. In January, the majority of the board voted to demote her. Since then, Hambley is suing the county and several commissioners over her title change and what she believes are efforts to terminate her. No, because it's the truth. They're trying to get rid of her. They really are. So there you go, Ottawa County. Have fun paying up here. Oh, you know what that music means. It's time to go on and get out of here. Join us again soon for another edition of As Ottawa County Turns. This program is produced for Big D Entertainment. Stay tuned for the edge of blight over most of these stations. I still have to view that recording that I made of the edge of blight. It's amazing stuff, let me tell you. Well, I tell you what, we have gone through an hour already, and we got to get out of here. We have a couple of stories. We still haven't gotten to the We Buy Ugly Houses investigation. We'll try to get to that next week. We're also going to get to Oregon's Measure 114 that has now been declared constitutional. We'll talk about it on next week's show. I'm Darren Gibson. Please support independent media, the First Amendment, and a woman's right to choose.
The stations that carry Southpaws do not necessarily share the opinions expressed on the show. Southpaws is protected by the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and is copyrighted by Big D Entertainment. All rights reserved.